Meet Sister Alfonsina Caesar. Clad in her white veil tucked under a builder's hat, she spends most of her day manning a micro-hydroelectric plant she built to overcome daily electricity cuts in her hometown of Miti in Democratic Republic of Congo.
The convent needed an electrician, a technician who could help. They saw in me the talent of electrical engineering, so they offered me an opportunity to go study electrical engineering. That's where it all started. It was the convent that made me study. I studied at ITFM, and when I finished, I started this service.
Blackouts are a daily disruption across the country, which sources most of its electricity from a run-down and mismanaged hydropower system. Despite millions of dollars in donor funding, the World Bank estimates that only around 20% of the population has access to electricity. Fed up with relying on candlelight and costly fuel-powered generators, Caesar started raising money in 2015 to build the hydropower plant. Thanks to her efforts, students can now learn computer skills from screens rather than books.
With the current we produce for the school, we believe that we are training young people. And with the current that we give to the hospital, we feel that we serve the whole population, because we are there for the poor. And it is in the hospital that we meet people from poor backgrounds.
Without the plant, residents in Miti would only have electricity 2 or 3 days a week for a few hours.
JustEatTakeaway.com could sell Grubhub less than a year after buying it. Europe's largest meal delivery firm bought the US company for $7.3 billion last June. In a statement Wednesday, Takeaway said it was actively exploring introducing a strategic partner to run Grubhub or a partial or full sale. It comes as the firm scaled back growth expectations for this year and reported a 1% drop in first quarter orders. Takeaway underperformed projections in Q1 with just above 264 million orders, over 20 million lower than analyst forecasts. Takeaway also said it now expected mid-single-digit growth for its gross transaction value, or GTV, this year, down from the mid-teens it predicted earlier. GTV measures the total value of food ordered and delivered. Takeaway has been hit by re-ratings of loss-making tech companies and those seen as winners during the health crisis. Its shares have lost 2/3 of their value since peaking in October 2020. Investors have largely gone off online food companies since the fierce fight for Grubhub, which Takeaway bought last June. The combined company is now worth just $6.3 billion at current prices.
For asylum-seeking migrants at the U.S. Mexico border, May 23rd is a day that many have long waited for. That's the day Title 42 is set to be lifted, ending a Trump-era policy that expelled migrants to Mexico, citing the COVID-19 pandemic. 26-year-old Mariana is an asylum seeker from Honduras. She was deported back to Honduras several months ago along with her husband and son, and is now hoping to try crossing the border again.
It's difficult, but necessity forces one. We have suffered a lot, especially when we were deported. We walked, we hitchhiked, we slept on the street.
U.S. President Joe Biden has pledged to reverse many of Trump's hardline immigration policies, including Title 42. Migrant Services Director Enrique Lucero says many are hopeful for the end of Title 42, but that no one knows what will happen next for asylum seekers.
They're very excited, eager for that day, because it's been a very long wait. They cannot return to their country because they're afraid of being assassinated, robbed, mistreated. They have a lot of stress and a lot of anguish that they've been carrying these 2 years.
Meanwhile, thousands of Ukrainian refugees have also fled to the border in the weeks following Russia's invasion, after Biden pledged to welcome up to 100,000 of them. But for 63-year-old Honduran asylum seeker Augusto Martinez, The U.S. government has a clear double standard when it comes to its treatment of Ukrainian refugees compared to Central American migrants who have been stuck in shelters for over 2 years.
They got a war. We got worse than war in Central America. And they have a war from February to this time. We got a war there with these gangs, you know what I mean, about 15, 20 years behind. And we have that war same. They can take all the Ukrainian people into the United States, but they don't take the Spanish people.
U.S. officials are preparing for as many as 18,000 migrant encounters per day in the coming weeks. Border authorities have attempted over 200,000 migrants attempting to cross, up 24% from the same month a year ago.
Walking into the Good Hop craft beer bar in Oakland, California, Allison Heller looks like any other patron coming in for happy hour. But instead of heading to the bar for a beer, she goes straight to the bathroom. Inside, she opens up her backpack and pulls out a plastic bag containing fentanyl test strips.
If you are going to use drugs here, you can test them.
Heller is a co-founder of the harm reduction nonprofit FentCheck. She hands out strips like these, which are designed to give users of recreational drugs the ability to check for the presence of the deadly synthetic opioid fentanyl.
We're done with dead kids. We're done with accidental overdoses. Because even if, we really do like to encourage recreational drug users to engage with harm reduction, of course we are also serving people who are struggling with drug addiction. They cannot make it to rehab. They cannot make it to the next step in their sobriety if they die that night.
The drug has flooded U.S. streets and contributed to nearly 500,000 U.S. opioid overdose deaths over 2 decades. In California alone, nearly 4,000 people died from fentanyl-related overdoses in 2020, according to health officials. Strips like these are becoming more commonplace in bars, restaurants, and venues in Oakland as the Bay Area and the country grapple with the opioid epidemic and a soaring death toll. The instructions of the test are simple. Fill a cup with an ounce of water, put a particle of the substance in the water, dip the strip into the water for 15 seconds, and set it down for 5 minutes. The results show up, much like a pregnancy or COVID-19 test, with lines indicating positive or negative. Fentanyl, which can be 100 times more potent than morphine, is increasingly being mixed with other drugs, such as cocaine, without users knowing, as drug suppliers seek to boost their effects. Melissa Myers, owner of the Good Hop, called her decision to carry the strips a no-brainer.
I want to keep our customers alive, We fought to stay alive through COVID, and I want them to be able to keep coming here, not die on a street or die at home because they've decided to try some new drugs.
While use of the strips may be growing in the Bay Area, not all cities and states accept them. Opponents have criticized them, claiming they enable drug users. Dr. Joey Hensley is a state senator and physician who runs a private practice in Tennessee.
I just don't think it's a good policy to make it easier for people addicted to drugs to use drugs.
But proponents of the test say people are going to do drugs, so they might as well do them as safely as possible. Jason Lujic, owner of the Legionnaire Bar, said lawmakers need to face the facts.
If you actually care about your constituents, and if you actually look at the data that your health departments are throwing out there, and if you actually care, one iota, grow up.